Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, guys. It's Tuesday. Things are a little bit more, Mondays are usually quiet, but I think we got a little bit more to do. Do have to roll things over. But first, let's come look at the chart. Just take a quick look at where things are at. Looks like here in the treasuries, we did have a little bit of a retracement from yesterday, but not too much. And since the open, we've kind of been on the downside. And the treasuries seem to be reacting very poorly to incoming issuance. So that's kind of the theme for today. And I do believe, let me check here, I do believe that we do have some issuance today, don't we? Yes, we have the 7-year bond today. Now, in the S&P 500, there was a little bit of a decline yesterday. Actually, my understanding was small caps did okay, but the larger indexes did not. Here you got oil back up yesterday, but I would say in the middle of the range. There's a lot of question as to whether or not they can ever break out of $80 a barrel this year. Obviously, the Biden administration doesn't want that to happen. So, gold and silver. Well, gold is looking okay. Silver is not. So there continues to be a little bit of a divergence there. Copper not having the best day yesterday, and a little bit of a pullback, but on the down foot again this morning. Japanese yen, there was some movement in the Japanese yen last night. I wouldn't say anything like groundbreaking, but they were moving. The dollar's staying pretty steady so far, and then we got Bitcoin. Bitcoin being pumped super hard yesterday. They're really trying to push it there and get people interested. It doesn't seem like people are. But so there it's going there, and that's basically where we're at. So over here, I'm going to have to take profits on this, and we're going to switch over to June now. So we're going to move over to M. Okay. Well, it's still pretty light over there for some reason, but it is time for me to go. So I am going to go short right there. Let's just remember that on that previous trade, I had made 890. So I can lose up to 890 and I'm still just at break even. Okay, now we are getting core durable goods coming in here in a second. That's not like a huge piece of data, but it is happening. 6.1. I guess I could have waited for the news and then done it after that, but negative 6.1 versus a expected -5 in core durable good -3 versus an expected -2. So that's actually a pretty big reaction for durable goods, but I think it's probably within within the boundaries of what is normal. So come over here. I could potentially use a second contract here and try and scalp something out. I am kind of wondering about this 115. It kind of seems like there's a little bit of I'm not going to say resistance, but it kind of seems like they run out of steam there. So my back feels a lot better today, so that's good. When will we see a real correction? Well, I'm not sure if we'll really see it this week. I'd actually say that the action, let's just come back over. Oh, I had an auto rollover notification that I didn't do. If we just come back over to like these daily charts. I mean, technically we are in a pullback, I guess you could say. This high seems a little like what would we call it? Crescendo top sort of a thing. So it wouldn't surprise me, and I'm not saying I think it's a top. I think I've found that trying to call tops is really difficult and probably not worth your time, right? But it doesn't surprise me that, you know, we're kind of in like a little bit of a mean reversion area. But I don't think that we're going to turn into like really strong downturn. Like below, let's say meaningfully below 5,000 to like 49.50, let's say, right? I'm not sure that we can get there until after this week, because we do have, let's come back over here now and pull up the Forex Factory calendar. Somebody the other day was telling me that they have like commodity specific calendars and that you can pay for, but I've never used those. Anyways, so we do have more data this week, right? GDP tomorrow, PCE price index on Thursday, and then on Friday we get PMIs and do we get, no, we do not. We do not get non-farms. But we do have a lot of Fed speakers on Friday. That's interesting. And then next week, we've got all of the job stuff. Okay. So, you know, I'm not too sure that it's going to happen before month end, basically, because Friday is the end of the month, right? But maybe next week there could be a little bit more movement, and then we could see a real correction. I mean, the thing is that you got to remember that it's the orders that set price, right? It's the interaction of those market orders and limit orders that ultimately set price. And so a lot of people have in their heads that we're supposed to match some sort of valuation. Although valuations aren't actually so bad, especially like when you look at the AI space, the size that they're expecting the AI space to get to, they're not overvaluing this stuff. Other people will say like it can only go so far. Like I watch RSI and the RSI is above 10 and that's unusual and there needs to be a pullback. No, there doesn't. I mean, the technicals don't control it. The technicals are just a result of statistics that are caused by other things, right? The statistics relating to technicals are effects, not causes of things. So it doesn't necessarily have to pull back. And I say that because if you really go back, and let me pull up a larger term chart here. And I'm gonna pull out this. How do I get rid of the other data series on here? Oh, I guess I pulled it off. There we go. Okay, but let's change it to a 1 month time frame. Okay, and when we're looking before 2020, so this was the 2020 price, right? Okay, and here's the 2008 crisis. All right, this whole time. Really, let's not count that right there. That was the taper tantrum. But this whole time people were like, oh, it's got to end. And I remember when we were here and when we were here, people are like, now we're going to get a real pullback and yada, 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 yada. But like, it was always just buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip. And then even when COVID came, I guess you could say that COVID was a buy the dip, but that was definitely a recession, you know? So it could just keep going up. It really could. It really could. There's nothing stopping it from just continuing to go up as long as the orders to continue buying it are there. And it seems like they are. It seems like the economy is kind of like balancing with employment. Like, most people are employed, but if you're not employed, it is hard to find a job. Money is getting tighter, but the economy continues to roar on. So people have the money, they're putting it into the market, and that's why the market's going up. It could just keep going up. Can we target end of March? QQQ puts 10% down. Well, so there is some concern that the end of the BTFP program and the reverse repo facility declining and things of a similar nature could create some havoc in March. I tend to think that with a quote-unquote deadline that is like everybody knows about and sees coming, that it's really hard to really have like real problems with a date like that. They will have contingencies and figure things out. But there are some kind of issues that we're going to have to resolve here, right? So it's possible that we might see some action and a decline in March. But if that doesn't, slow them down, what's to stop them from continuing to rally into the election? I'm not sure. Because you've got this one time period where the balance of flows kind of looks slightly negative. And then if that doesn't kill it, then, man. Of course, what could happen is that it just gets too strong. And then they really do raise rates and causes it to crash. But I don't know if that would play out before the election. So Bitcoin rally is really strong. Well, the rally from yesterday was really strong. My understanding is that the funds were coming, or at least let's say that there were people on Twitter claiming that the funds were coming from Tron. So I'm a little bit skeptical of, well, let me put it this way. Seeing Bitcoin rising up here, there's not actually informational content in there. It's manipulation, essentially. I would think that Bitcoin will continue to rally throughout the year as well, but you never know. There's the problem with Bitcoin is that I think that the balance right now is positive, but there's still really, really bad risks out there. Nah, I don't think that the ETF flows explain. I think that the ETF flows kind of explain the dip and then recovery after that. But I don't think that they explained that huge move yesterday. There isn't like super aggressive orders coming into the ETFs to push it there. It was, from what I could tell, coming from within the Bitcoin ecosystem, and there was people pointing out where the money was coming from. So if it's just Tron and Tether kind of manipulation, look, there's some people in Bitcoin that have a lot at stake here, right? Like if Bitcoin was to all of a sudden crash and get back below 20,000, I think Michael Saylor would be in big trouble, for instance. So they're going to do everything that they can to support price, right? At any chance that it's coming below their position, they buy more, they double down. So that's risky, right? If MicroStrategy were to go under, it would be really bad for Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin would be devastated. If there was some sort of regulation or something, there's all sorts of things that could happen. So But I don't think it's the ETF lows at this point. I think that the ETF lows are like a slight boost to it, but I don't think that the ETF lows can explain really aggressive 10K rise in price like we saw yesterday. Well, I kind of sat tight through that whole thing. Well, I wouldn't say sat tight. This again is a swing position that already has like $800 of profit baked into it. I kind of wonder if I should have messed around with the second contract somewhere through there. I find it very curious how quickly it slumped back down. I am concerned that the treasuries are worried about supply. There's a 7-year auction today. All of the other auctions have been really bad. Like before, we were having it where like some auctions were bad and some auctions were really good. But this time around, it seems like they've all been bad. Am I wrong? So right now, my News Squawk is talking about Bank of England Fed speaker. By the way, we have anything later today? CB Consumer Confidence Richmond Fed. Okay. I didn't drink enough water before I went to bed last night. Stay hydrated, right? Well, my lips are really chapped. I don't feel super thirsty, but my lips are really chapped. There's another 3 ticks down. I mean, this selling seems pretty strong. Also, when I switched, I guess maybe because I switched and it was like I saw 3Ks and then I switched and I was only seeing like 600s. But I think that was pulling for the news because now in the front month, it's pretty light. I didn't switch these other ones, so let's do that. Let's get all of these to M. When you're at the beginning of a contract, you often get really good trends. So, you know, that's something to watch out for. We might have some good opportunities here. Wait, what? There we go. Okay. And then I guess we got to remember next week to switch the other. Switch the micros down here. It's a little hot in here. I don't know if it's just me or if... I know, it's definitely hot. You gotta be careful, or I have like hits in my armpits and stuff. I'm gonna check, see, make sure that I don't have the heater vent open. Yep. I don't know. I don't know what the difference is today. Maybe it's just me. Make sure I got my fan on my camera though. I don't want the camera to overheat. Is there a prop firm that isn't a scam? Well, I don't think that any of them are scams. Okay, they work the way that they say that they do. Is there a prop firm that's worth it? In my opinion, no. Unless you're just trying to YOLO, right? Like there are people out there. I saw a interview with a guy on YouTube, I think it was. I didn't really watch it very far, but he basically had pulled $1 million out of funding firms. Basically, he run as many combines as he could, run really, really aggressive strategies, and he had been paid out more than $1 million. He blows a lot of accounts too. But that's part of the game, apparently. So that's why I say, if you're going to do the prop funding accounts, like, do degenerate stuff. But really, just fund your own account and trade micros if you really want to trade, right? Trade micro treasury yield futures. You can get started for like less than $500, and that'll probably last you a good year or two. Even if you're a losing trader and everything, that can last you a long time. $10, you're probably risking $10, $20 a day. Why not? If you just want to trade. No real reason. There's no reason you can't run your own account these days. In the long run, cheaper than doing the combines. So as a non-US trader though, you can't, I mean, unless your country has restrictions, you should still be able to go to like a US futures trading commission or merchant or introducing broker and start an account. In fact, in some respects, it's easier. You don't necessarily have to answer all the questions. Like, you have to tell them what your occupation is, but there are other questions they ask that you don't necessarily have to tell them. Although they would certainly feel more comfortable if you answered them. They kind of have discretion as to whether or not they want to take on your account. But like, if you're going to AMP futures, man, like, should be able to get it. We're talking about why is it that what is it about this time? I'm just noticing a lot more people asking me questions about funded trader programs. For some reason, it's more popular this month than it was, 3-6 months ago. Which I find really odd, because I would think that the funded trader programs would only become less popular over time. Are they having like a big marketing push right now or something? I don't get it. You have to check Twitter. My feed is exploded with prop firm ads. Really? Maybe they are doing a marketing push. Oh, I'm sure that most of them trade prop funds. Yeah, they have pretty much completely taken over that world. Do you think that Apex is probably the most popular now? I mean, I tell you what, I could have gone back and I could have just been all in on the funding. Could have been like said, okay, we're just gonna take degenerate risks and push that because that, is what's popular and whatnot. And I could probably be at the top of the funded trader heap. Don't you think? I think I was best positioned to do that, especially because I had a relationship with Apex. Like I had a, the link and all of that sort of stuff. But I just, micros came out and I said, I don't think that this is the best thing for my guys. So I didn't do it. But the way everybody talks is kind of like they have no problem. Well, I don't know. Because the question that started this was, are there any funded trader programs that aren't scams? So it's kind of like everybody wants to get involved in them, but they don't like the offering, essentially. You know what I would do, and I don't know, I think that there's probably a flaw in this business scheme, because otherwise I think that Edge Clear and what was Futures Trader 71 doing before they left on Edge Clear? I forget. But they doing something where you watch all of your traders' performance, and at the end of after they've been trading a year, if their stats after a year are good, maybe you give them some money, right? So you're still trading the brokerage account, but if you trade with that brokerage, there's a greater chance that they'll fund you some. Why doesn't that happen more often? Maybe it's just because when you look out at a year's worth of performance, there's like hardly anybody that actually qualifies, probably. But then that also kind of begs the question, why don't you see more people swinging futures? That's probably because most people that they get into futures, it's because really they wanted to trade stocks and they didn't have a large enough account to day trade stocks. That's probably why. But with these micro futures and everything, like you get to the point where you can swing them. I think it's an attractive proposition. May have hurt your credibility. Well, yes and no. So the issue is that I might have an audience, and right now I probably have credibility among 80 to 90% of my audience. I'd like to think that I am known for integrity. That's something that I focus on. That's something that people have always said to me, that they trust me with things. Like at my jobs, I've been given trust over sensitive issues and everything because they know that I have integrity. But if I were to have gone down that route, right, maybe only a third of my audience would completely trust me in that kind of manner. But my audience would be like 20 times larger. So like that group of people that trust me would actually be larger in the end anyways, right? It's when you think about it in those terms, it's kind of the whole dynamics of how that works are kind of messed up, don't you think? That's how I feel. Because the thing that irks me is that I don't feel that the algorithms push you towards what would be best for you. They say that it's based on engagement and other things like that, but I'm not sure if that completely explains it. And yeah, if you are like, really pro funded prop firm sort of a thing, you get more attention. Like when I was making videos about that sort of stuff, that was where the channel first took off. Let's see here. So I would think I was missing some. I don't YOLO, but I do like the idea of having 20 accounts and making $100 in each one each day. India risk is a risk, profit is profit. 20 accounts making 10K total could be the same as one account making 10K. The risk is the same with the one account or 10 as long as you keep the risk the same. Well, yes and no. So like if I have 10 accounts, right, and I'm doing a different strategy on all of them, and they're all kind of doing YOLO trades, and the funded trader program that I'm doing doesn't have any kind of limit on like I have to have been trading a certain number of days. You've noticed that they've kind of been getting rid of those consistency measurements, right? It's because without the consistency measurement, then people start opening up more accounts and they make more money because people open up multiple accounts. And then if I have like 10 of those, then at least one of them is going to do well, right? And if I only spent like $200 off of it, and I ultimately am able to pull out $1,000 from it before that account goes bust, then that was a net profit for me, right? That's how they're doing it. Yeah, well, some people are doing the trade copier too. I'm not sure I understand that. That one doesn't seem to make sense to me though. Like, why wouldn't you just do like the larger sized account? And I would think that the larger sized account would be enough for most people, you know? But there are some people doing the trade copier, isn't there? Just noticing something. I need to go and check. Oh, phew. I think we're okay. Oh, no. Oh, wait. Okay, yes, I did do that. Did do it that way. Yes. Yes. Okay, so we're safe. I was looking at my some of my emails and I got a notification about a fee going through and I'm like, I don't think that that's supposed to go through right now, but I checked and it's all good. You're having a blast going through all your trades from last year with tax season? So for me in tax season, I had forgotten what I had done. I had forgotten how at the beginning of last year I intentionally took a loss on my Zillow shares. So I think since then Zillow has been up maybe like 5 or 10%, but it's not huge. And I don't remember if I think I did put some of that into something else. But so I did some wash trade harvesting because I thought it was going to come in and like I was going to have some like a net profit again like I had the year before, but it wasn't because of those losses on the stocks. So whatever. And I did have a slight loss on the futures themselves. I think it was like a slight loss of $200 or something like that. But I also, because everybody was telling me like all of the deductions are going down, all of these sorts of things, my income went up this year. I wasn't expecting to get any kind of a tax return this year. And I still got one. So I'm a little... I was trying to have everything set up so that I wouldn't get a tax return anymore. That I was just maximizing my paycheck, but whatever. If prop firms are paying out all this money, how are they staying in business? Well, so if you have like 10 people and they all go into the combine and one of them gets funded, okay, and then he loses $2,000 and blows the account immediately. Is it 2,000 or 3,000? Let's just say that it was 2,000, right? 10 people, and they each paid $200. That's the $2,000 right there. So based on those numbers, the prop firm is still just break even. And then if the guy actually makes money, and it kind of seems like some of them do make a little bit of money and get a payout, they get 10% of that, right? So with those numbers, I don't see how you could not make money as the prop firm. Yeah, I did all the calculations last night and getting ready to send it off, and either I'm a tax genius or I'm going to jail. Right? So I had a little bit of debt. The debt's all paid off. There was a little bit when COVID came along, because we had a baby. So there was that period when my wife wasn't working at all, and she works a lot less than she did. So that really hurt income, right? I think it was like 20% of our income or something like that. So that hurt. And at that time, she did put some things on credit. So I had just kind of been carrying that for a while, and we paid that off. That's what I did with it. Maybe I'll get something nice, but I haven't decided. I think if I get something frivolous, it will be a television, bigger television. I'm trying really hard. I'm in a position. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of like avoid talking about this too, to be honest, but like I just feel like I have to share. Okay. Like I'm in a position where I could start spending big, and I just know that if I take this time and really, really save it up, I could be set for life. You never know. Maybe this is just a temporary thing, and I'm not making this much income for forever, right? So I'm trying to be as frugal about it as possible. And it just something about it doesn't feel... I think that the other thing that's going on here with this is that, like, I think that my current dream right now is to start a fund. My dream, and I don't know how practical it is, so I think that I kind of like avoid calling it a dream, because I'm still not 100% sure if it's like, if there's something about it that it's like you can't do it, right? But the dream is a hedge fund for everybody. That we create a fund that is geared towards accredited investors that become accredited by taking a test, so that anybody, regardless of their income, could potentially invest in this fund and get the kinds of returns that you get from hedge funds. Which is not to say that it's going to be like you're going to beat the S&P 500 every year, and so, you know, that can be the point of a hedge fund, but that would not be the objective. I think that the objective would be a fund that gives you uncorrelated returns. So it probably would be a momentum strategy, right? Something that when the stock market goes down, the fund still does really well, right? That's the dream. But to do that, like, people have to invest in you. And I think that I have the integrity and everything to give people the confidence to invest in us. I think that we're working on the strategy, so that we'd have to have that down and have that pretty solid. But even, you know, with all of those things in place, we would need like over $10 million. And how do I convince people to give me $10 million to manage? And one of the things that I think about is that it seems like that people trust you based on that it's kind of like all about this social prestige. So I don't care about these sorts of things for the most part. I thought that I was like most people, and it's not like I don't care about it at all, but it just seems to me that I care about it less than other people do, you know? And I'm not feel very comfortable playing that game that is like trying to build up my outward appearance appear as socially prestigious as possible so that people will give me money. You know what I mean? And so I'm like fighting this whole thing where it's like, well, you need to like upgrade your wardrobe and your look and everything so that people will give you. But then I'm also like, yeah, but I don't want to spend any of it. I just want to put it all into the market. You know? Seth problem, right? These are rich people problems is what they are. Is what they are. Plus the other thing is, so like if I were to say here on the stream, okay, I need to update my look so that people, when they come to the stream, are like, oh man, that guy must really know what he's doing. I'm going to watch him just because of the way that he looks, right? I don't think I could wear t-shirts anymore, could I? I think I would have to wear button-down shirts. I think it would have to be like I don't know. What do you think I would wear? I mean, I can do the collared polo shirt. That's a little bit better, but I don't think that people look at that and go like, this guy knows what he's doing. If there's anything that was going to be like super leisurely looking, maybe like a linen shirt sort of a thing, right? One that's kind of you know what I'm talking about, kind of wrinkly and stuff. That makes you look like you're a millionaire on your yacht, sort of a thing. Maybe I could do that. Otherwise, I think that I would have to wear a suit. Like, I think if I'm trying to get people to invest in my fund, I need to wear a suit. You need a nice medium-sized polish brass Seth on your bookshelf behind you. That screams, I know what I'm doing. Is polished brass, really? Okay. I mean, I think I could do that. Yeah, Octavia says linen. That's exactly what I'm talking. Sorry, what did I say? I thought I didn't use the word linen, did I? But yeah, I'm talking about, you know, one of them linen shirts that you would like wear on a yacht. Maybe I could have a few of those. But then I was searching for this last night. Let me pull this up here. Leisure linen shirt, something like that. And I just get like what looks to me like just a regular button-down shirt, but made out of linen. I guess that's maybe more what I don't know if I want to show that much chest though. I mean, I've got a hairy chest. Do you really want to see this all the time? Is it? Probably not. Just shiny metal, the polished brass, and the prettiest. Yeah, you know what, man? Like a walnut desk with brass inserts. I think that's the most swanky looking kind of stuff. I really like the desk. So I got this piece of wood. They told me it was cherry. I looked at it. I was like, I'm not sure that this is cherry, but it looks like a nice piece of wood. We stripped it because they had it wasn't even a stain. It was just like this dark stuff on it. It was kind of gross. When I pulled that all away, it's birch. It's basically a piece of birch. Which some people might not like birch because the contrast in the wood grain can be kind of strong, but I really like it. It has a lot of character. And when I first put the protectant on it or whatever, we did Rubio monocoat on it. If you're into woodworking, that's everybody on YouTube uses the Rubio monocoat. We used that because it was the best for our application. And at first I was like, oh, I don't know, it's too amber and yada yada. But now I look at it as it's kind of grown, and I don't know if like the Rubio changes color over time or if the wood has changed color over time, but now it's just like a rich brown, and I really like it, and I just can't wait to get it in here. We're still going to build a cableway, and so that's why I don't have it in here yet. But I got that. But I do like a good walnut. So my wife is talking about making a dog crate. And I'm thinking that the top of it should be walnut. Walnut top, the rest of it can be white because that's what the kitchen is. When are you going to launch your hedge fund? I don't know. I mean, I suppose I could come up with a name and register it and then start soliciting funds with people next week. But if I was going to do it that way, it would have to be a pool. And when I go and I read about pools, like the rules are not clear to me. Like, who can invest in a pool? Do they have to be an accredited investor? I've not been able to read anything anywhere that tells me what the case is. It seems like there are some cases where, based on what you're doing, it basically becomes a public offering, and then you have to go through all the stuff of registering a security with the SEC, right? But at that point, I might as well go the managed futures route. And so maybe that's what I should be doing and planning towards is getting the Series 31 and doing managed futures now. But I was kind of hoping that by the time I had passed it and everything, and with us talking about it, that I would have done some networking and stuff that would kind of get us closer and would help me know what I'm doing. But I just haven't done that yet. Like those opportunities just haven't come along. So I need to work harder on that. I'm trying to find stuff like locally. So maybe eventually it'll come on. Because like with the doing a CTA thing, you know, surely there's small businesses around that have hedging needs and could benefit from my services, right? I do like a good old walnut. Not everybody thinks that walnut is the greatest, but I generally think if you're going to make furniture and you want it to be high quality, that you should use walnuts. Use walnut and kind of use a little bit more of a natural finish so that you get that kind of creamy chocolate color instead of it just being like super dark like some people do. Black silk linen, what's that? So anyways, when I search for linen shirts, I don't know if I really find what I'm looking for. Maybe a Henley shirt, long sleeve Henley shirt. But actually what you want is Irish linen, because apparently normal linen is a little bit scratchy, but the Irish linen is kind of higher quality and is really softened up. So then you get like, okay, here's Brooks Brother, but that's just like a regular shirt, right? That's a regular shirt, except for that it will wrinkle really easily. You might as well just get wool. I've seen some on here that are like, this is a linen and wool shirt, and I'm like, why? Isn't that like explicitly forbidden in the Jewish religion? So why would anybody bother? Like, why would anybody want a linen and wool shirt? Can't imagine there would be like any benefit to that either. Whatever. Todd Snyder. There we go. Maybe not that one. Maybe Slim Fit C soft Irish linen insert in blue tide. What do you think? Huh? You get that shirt. If I wore a shirt like that every day, I don't know. Would it do it? Or do I need to wear a suit? I need to wear a suit. I need to have like the big cufflinks, right? I feel like you don't wear the cufflinks until you're the boss, right? So once I have some employees and stuff, then I can get cufflinks. I am going to spend more money on clothes. It's just like, I don't know what to get. I'm way more interested in like functional clothes, like it's built for this specific, I don't know. What if I said linen sun shirt, something like that? Sun protective fabric shirts from REI. Da-da-da-da-da. That looks, so is Sun 58 have men and women? Okay, sun shirts and polos. Yeah, okay. Can you imagine me wearing a shirt like that with it buttoned all the way up? I think I would look like such a tool that way. Now their model, they got some nice shoulders. Yeah. Oh, it's probably a mannequin. I don't know. Something about that shirt kind of seems a little bit nicer than a t-shirt. I don't know if any of those were linen, though. Linen twill. You're gonna have to do some research for me, guys. Find me like the exact post it in Discord under the which channel would it be, like off topic channel under fun off topic, and post them there. Post links to shirts. We can go get them. I kind of thought that having the ticker in the background would really I think it actually does add to it. And the flag. Oh yeah, I like the flag. And then I got a lot of books, but then I also have Jolteon, and that kind of is less serious. If I had my name in big brass letters or whatever, we probably wouldn't be able to tell what it was. Clothes are slightly important, of course, especially depending on the situation, but I feel what's most important is how you hold yourself. Too professional is not the clothes, it's the person. Well, now that's an even more interesting thing to think about, isn't it? Because I feel like that I am way too serious, but I also do not necessarily feel like we're super professional and that I hold myself as I feel like I hold myself in a way that is still very approachable. Am I wrong? But I at the same time, I don't know, if the way that I hold myself, it's really the way that I intend to, or if I understand how other people perceive me very well. So I don't know. I always kind of get this feeling, like when I'm talking with people in person, like if I go to, I remember I went to a networking event that a local group goes. I would like to go to that again, but I just haven't had the time to go and do it. And I'm talking to them, and by the end, because I was talking about, trying to use machine learning for finance stuff. And by the end, I had all these guys listening to me. And I was like, it's the first time I've been here. You don't know anything about me. I don't understand why you're all, what is it? Do I really seem that serious? I don't know. Maybe part of it was that I am in my 40s. And I don't think that I understand or realize the difference in the way that makes and how people see you. I'm getting a lot of gray in here, man. It's really, at first it was just is there gray in that beard? Yes, I think that there is. Hey, you know what? Maybe that's not too bad. Let's grow it out a little bit. I think it could make me look a little bit more distinguished. I don't know if you can really tell on the stream. You can tell when you zoom in. You can tell when it's full on, right? Now you can see there's gray in there, right? But otherwise, you can't really see it. But then it was just now it's all over the place. So it changed fast. ability to speak confidently, outward stance, respectable wording and phrasing to attempt to describe info in understandable ways. I do think, going back to the luxury beliefs and things like that, I very much think that I adopted, like, let's say, more educated speech patterns. I like to use big words. I think that sometimes people are intimidated by the way that I speak. Like that the words that I'm using are too complicated for them, sort of a thing. You know what I mean? Because I've had some situations where it felt like I was getting that reaction from people. Let them run away scared. Well, it's funny. It's a funny thing to me because, like, when you're making YouTube videos, for instance, right? There's this whole thing that, like, if you write everything at a 5th grade level, then it broadens your audience and you should be able to get more people and things like that. You know what I should do? Okay, I'll tell you. Let's do this experiment, because lately I've been, like, running them through I run the scripts through AIs and stuff to kind of help me get the language better and to make it more approachable. For the momentum strategy video, I am just going to talk the way that I want to talk. So I will use all of the biggest words and the most, because to me, I think it's fun when, you get a couple of big words together and they kind of sound fun together, and I like that stuff. Some people it's like, oh, it's too complicated. But this next video, I think, because it's about momentum strategies and stuff like that, I think we could do that. It would be okay. So I'll do that for the next video, and then you guys see. Hopefully, by the time I make that video, you'll remember what's going on. I was supposed to last weekend had worked on my script, but I run into this issue sometimes where, like, I'm like, oh, I can't work on the script. I don't have the free time. I need a certain block of time to really be able to work on this sort of a thing, right? And then when I get that time, I don't use it. Because I could have done that Saturday morning, and I didn't. That's actually known logic to use, like, 5th grade level speech. Yes. I've been told that your content will do better if it's at a 5th grade level. That they've, like, done all of these studies, and the most popular content tends to be written at a 5th grade reading level. That actually kind of disgusts me to hear. You're not surprised, though, are you? Can't be surprised. What do we got the interest rate at? Still slightly below 4.3. I don't know if that new low is significant or not, but it is a new low. I am not still disgusted, though. That's funny. I don't know. One of the favorite phrases that I ever picked up was from my best friend in high school. He would always say, "Don't let words get in the way of communication." That it was like, you both know how each other define the words, and you know how you were using it in that particular context. So why are you arguing over the word? Because especially online, don't you ever find people are just arguing over the meaning of words? Like, it's kind of, I'm starting to see that with the technical analysis thing, right? Whenever we come down into debating technical analysis, then you have to talk with them about, well, what actually makes it technical analysis, right? Because some people's definition of technical analysis is like my definition of quantitative analysis, for instance. So what's the difference between technical analysis and quantitative analysis? It seems to me like that the most newbies don't see a difference between them. So then you have to have this argument about what is what. or when people are arguing the same point in different wording and I swear each other wrong. Yeah, something that happens with me at work with my boss often is I'll ask, like, he'll say something and I'll ask, you know, like, to make sure I'm understanding it correctly, and I'll try to say what I think that he's saying, and it'd be like, no, but then, like, in the end we are saying the same thing, and I'm like, I don't understand why when I say it that it doesn't see it as the same thing. I don't know. That happens a lot for some reason. I think there's this other thing that, like, some people do have to get used to me, right? I'm weird in many of those respects. Like, if you're problem solving with me, that can be a really frustrating experience for some people, because I tend to go through a really regimented process where I go through like every little possibility, and most people are like, I think that the problem is here based on this kind of heuristic and yada yada yada, and that's probably a more efficient way of doing it. But the reason that I always end up catching the things that everybody misses is because I basically have no choice but to be thorough. Like, because I'm a little ADHD, right? It basically ends up being like brute force approach to everything. Right? But then it comes back to, it's like, okay, so here on the stream, so if I did these things and I changed certain ways that I ran the stream, would I maybe get better retention and have the stream take off and things like that? And it's like, well, I don't really care, because I'm really happy with the way that the stream goes right now and the size of it. And if it got too popular, it would maybe be not as cool. But the dream is the fund. So how do I build the fund, right? You guys are great, but I think that I need to meet some people in real life that are better at this to help me accomplish this. You know what I mean? I think there's some things that I just can't, like, you have to be present to influence. That's what it is. And see, I used to, you know, spend all my time trying to network and build up my social skills and stuff, but it was more like in the club. And now I kind of want to do it in a more of a professional capacity, but like, these kids make it hard, man. These kids make it hard, and I need to stop letting that hold us back. And my wife kind of is a little insular too. But I need to turn it into like, oh no, look, we're gonna have people over. It has to happen. Yada yada yada. That's probably should be my goals. Like, the personal goals should probably be that have more people over and update my wardrobe somehow. And the trading right now, the focus is on developing higher time frame swing strategies is the focus there. I'm going to close this window with all of the linen shirts and whatnot. Thought maybe I would pull it back up, but nah. I don't know, like, we came down to the lows and everything, but the treasuries look pretty quiet about it. So I'm not even sure. And I mean, if we consider like where we were relative, like 110 even, of course, this is in the new month, but 110 even was where so much of the focus was last contracts. So we're a little bit above that. So I can't really think of this as like actually really significant lows. It's deceptive, right? And they're just kind of hovering there, and they look pretty chill. A trove of documents purportedly leaked from a cybersecurity firm in China reveals how Beijing uses surveillance to impose political controls inside and outside its borders. So that's another thing I wonder is that like one time I replied to a Hu Xixin tweet, or like I retweeted it with a comment or something, and the 50 Cent army came after me. And sometimes I wonder, like, did that put me on the Chinese watch list? Are the Chinese out to get me now? I hope not, because someday I hope that their markets become more open and we trade Chinese bonds too. You know? Whatever. Maybe I'm on their list. Well, let's come around and do a little bit of browsing around, see if there's any new stories. Uh-oh, the Houthis have knocked out several undersea internet cables, says report. Conflicting reports emerged that underwater communications cables between Saudi Arabia and Djibouti struck out of commission. Yeah, that would be kind of weird that, like, we wouldn't see that. Oh, okay. Denmark, yeah. The further along this gets, the more convinced I am that it was Joe Biden. Like 20 years from now, that's gonna come out that we did do it, and we'll all be like, "See, I told you." Intuitive Machines moon mission nears end, shares crash harder than lunar lander. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so nothing too much new there. Jake Novak, the real reason the Koch-backed AFPHQ is pulling its financial support for Nikki Haley isn't about her chances of winning, it's because of the border. I explain here. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, I'm seeing people talk about Kristi Noem today. There were reports yesterday that Kristi Noem, who's what, the South Dakota governor or something like that, but that she had an interview with Donald Trump. So he is interviewing vice presidential candidates, and it might be her. Not too much on Twitter, though. I feel like Jim is the only guy that I really see consistently posting on Twitter now. Don't you hedge your trades? No, not usually. There has been a couple of situations where, like, I was messing around in the 2 and the 5 year, trying to bring the spread in, and then I got filled when I didn't want to. And so I just hedged it by taking the opposite position in the 10-year. And that was even like, I don't even care if that's the direction that the spread is going. I will lose less being the wrong direction on the spread than I will be just only, having no position over here. And then I waited until I got filled on here and took it out, and it was fine. So I have done that. I do want, so I have this ZN trade on here because I feel that I've been able to feel the larger term momentum swings in the treasuries over the past few years pretty well. I think that I'm like way too stingy about how I go about it. But that's why I've kind of taken this one where it's like, the momentum is shifting down. We're in a range-bound area. I got a good position you're just supposed to hold this one. So I'll hold it until it stops out. And if rates go back up, you know, that could be a huge winner. So that's the practice with this one. But I think the longer term idea here would be to do to look at the yield curve, to find shifts, momentum sort of strategies in the yield curve and trade that instead. And do it with these micros. Because I think that what they're doing is this. I think that what the CME does is this. Okay, what are our traders that are doing really well on the CME? Like, what is the strategy that's working right now? Well, up here in the main treasuries in ZN, I think that the number one is probably the basis trade. That you hold the cash treasuries and then you sell the futures against it and you make the difference. That's been a popular trade as of late, especially. But, you know, you're going to have a minimum of $100,000 in bonds to do. Most people don't have that. So, and then the amount that you make is trivial. So like a retail trader's not going to be doing that. Retail trader's not going to be doing the basis trade. That's something more for a large fund with leverage and so forth to do. Okay, so what's next? Well, I think that the next one is probably momentum and yield curve strategies, because there is some signs that there are momentum effects in the yield curve, right? Well, here again, with the full treasuries, you got like these extra transaction costs, and you have to have the margin for when you're putting them on and things like that. And there's all these complicated things, like you probably need to hold it overnight. That might be too much for a retail trader. And you know, the ratios that you get for the treasuries here might not match exactly, and there's issues with that, right? So what did they do? They made the micros for us. They said, okay, we can make this instrument where you don't have any of those problems. You should be able to hold, it's so small, you should be able to hold it for weeks and weeks and weeks. And you don't have to worry about the ratios because they're all sized the same. It's perfect. They are begging us to do spread trades in the micro treasury yield futures, and I don't think that anybody really does it because we don't understand those strategies. So I got to do a lot more research in that area. I need to do a lot more research in that area. And then I guess they would be quote unquote hedged. I don't know. What's your annual goal for ROE? Oh, man, I don't approach it like that at all. Okay. If I made a profit that year in my futures trading, I'm super happy. Okay. This is very, very difficult. I've never, again, like my standard is like, you've made money 5 years in a row from your futures trading activity, 5 years in a row. I've never met a retail trader that's done that before. I've never met that. So it's plenty of people that claim to be profitable, and it's like, okay, so how long have you been doing it? 2 years. Always. It's always 2 or 3 years. I've never met 5. And definitely not in the treasuries. That's the other thing. I think one of the reasons why I come out so strongly against like the price action kind of stuff is because the S&P 500 is pretty random. And so those price action strategies can actually work really well for a long time before they start to blow up. Whereas if you start doing that stuff in the treasuries, they show you that doesn't work very quickly. Right. But it's not that it works in ES, it's just ES is able to maintain that illusion for longer. Because it's so random. But there's no edge to it. You're just making money based on the random nature of markets, and because the market has fat tails, it's not a net profitable strategy in the long run. It just takes you longer to realize that. Right? Okay, but if I'm having a profitable year, when I'm only trading a single contract in micro treasury yield futures, right? We're only talking about a few $100s, right? See, so what am I getting at? By the way, have you been here before, JVM? That name sounds familiar. Usually the reason that people ask me that question is because they're thinking, I don't like my job. I would like to be more independent. Maybe day trading is a way that I could be independent like that. So how much would I need to make in order to just live off of this, right? How do I make this into my career? And so then you start doing all this math that is like, okay, can I make $100,000 a year from that? And what does that come out to? What my target needs to be on a daily basis, and thus how many contracts I would need to trade for that to be a realistic thing. And then you go, okay, well, I only can trade one contract right now, and I need to be able to trade 10. So I need to work myself up to 10 contracts, and then you kind of move in that direction. And the issue is that, number one, like the whole thing is just not practical at all. Okay. If you really want to make a living from doing this, I would recommend trading a momentum strategy and starting a fund and making money off of the fee. You got a 2% fee. If you have like $20 million under management, you know, that 2% ends up being, you know, $200,000 a year or whatever. Now you're at the higher end of the income range, right? And now you don't have to worry about if I don't get the next trade right, I can't eat anymore. Of course, there's still stresses because like they say that there's no such thing as a third unprofitable year in a row for a fund. Usually after 3 years of unprofitability, people lose interest in it. I'd rather have a lower return every year than no return, to be honest. I don't consider day trading as a career. It's unproven. Yeah, well, and let's try to be a little bit more specific, okay? I do not consider day trading futures a practical career. So if you want to do it in futures, then you should probably be looking at going the CTA or managed futures route. Okay. And how you drum up that kind of business and make enough money from doing it, I don't know. I haven't met that guy yet, but that appears to be the way that the professionals in our industry are doing it. Okay. Stocks may be a different issue. Okay. Options trading might be a different issue. Options, you probably need a big wad to trade, but there are definitely people that are like day trading options and do make a living from it. And there are definitely people that are like day trading stocks and make a living at it. I have not met somebody that was consistently making a living at it for 5 years in a row. I'm sure that they probably exist. And then on top of that, it's maybe not even necessarily day trading, because maybe you are holding the positions for several days, but it's just you are like there every day in front of the market making trades, right? Kind of a day trader. So again, a lot of things come down to definitions, right? Because I think that what often happens in the trading industry is that the reality doesn't match up very well with like our expectations. We've built up expectations based on something that we read, some story that we heard or something. And that story is like either no longer applicable because the market has changed too much, or, you know, it didn't get translated very well. There's key things like the example that I give is the turtle traders. As people say, well, technical analysis and day trading can work. Think of the turtle traders. Yes, but they were doing momentum. They were swing trading, right? So what's the difference? Well, it's the day trading time frame is the problem there. So if that's where the kind of the route that you're going down, that's the answer. Or let me give you a better answer. If you're looking for a new career, I wouldn't look at day trading as a career. Day trading is a hobby that can potentially become super lucrative, but for the most part, it's not a career. And if you're looking for a new career, you should go and look for a real career. Like go to learn to code or whatever the deal is. That just reminds me of this whole other thing, because, you know, it used to always be learn to code, and then AI came along, and now everybody's saying, oh, no, you shouldn't learn to code. But I don't agree with that at all. So, number one, the introduction of artificial intelligence, this requires lots of data, really good data pipelines. Like, there is a lot of engineering going into just getting the data to and training the robots, okay? Which means the number of jobs in the computer space is going to continue to increase at a higher than average pace, okay? You need all these people to keep the robots going, right? But the thing is that there's a lot of people going into computer science right now that, like, they're not really interested in it. Used to be only real computer nerds did it. Like, I always knew from as a little kid that I was going to go into computer science, because that's what I was most interested in, was the computer. That was my niche interest, my ADHD hyper interest, whatever, was the computer. There are people that are now coming into the space that they don't really have that interest in the computer. They don't necessarily have that affinity for the technical problem-solving aspects of it. They just want the money, right? Now, those people probably just shouldn't be in the field to begin with, but there is money, so they're going to come in. But what's going to happen is that those people more and more will be doing more of like niche-specific stuff. You're working for a certain kind of company, certain kind of industry. And those people won't need to be as technical and won't need to know as much programming, because they will have all of these tools that will allow them to be very, very productive and create the stuff that they want. But we're not to the point where you let robots do this stuff on their own, right? So you'll still need people to do this. I have found that if you have the technical, kind of like problem-solving abilities to be effective at day trading, that you're very likely to be able to be effective at computer science. So if you're looking for a new career avenue, I would point you in that direction. What I do, because basically what I do is there's something wrong with the system. Why is it down, or what's the problem? And I go in and I fix it. So it's the thing that is like the most similar to day trading in the computer science space, right? Because there's still the stress involved and all this sort of thing. And I sit all day with a bunch of charts on my screen and interpret these charts to see if there's something wrong with the system. Right, it's the most similar to day trading. It's kind of funny. And it pays well. There's other people that I see that, like, they're young kids and they want to hustle. So they're like, well, day trading is one place where I could hustle and make a ton of money. You should go into sales. Go and become a salesperson. Go into tech sales. I need to learn to code. I've thought about it slightly. Not much experience, but not like totally clueless. I just thought I might start with Rust just due to the interest in it right now. You know, there was this thread the other day on the Rust subreddit where the guys... Actually, I wonder if I can find it. Rust kind of has a reputation for being a challenging language. Anything where you have to manage the memory yourself can be challenging, because essentially you need to know some relatively advanced algorithms and methods of doing things to manage memory. and that becomes complicated very quickly. But yeah, I don't see it. But there was this guy that said that they met a kid that was learning to program, and they started with Rust because of all of the interest in it, and everybody was so jealous about it. So like Rust probably is going to be the most difficult way to learn programming. I don't know if Rust would give you the most job opportunities. I mean, Rust pays pretty well. There are opportunities out there. They need Rust developers, but there's not nearly as many people looking for Rust developers as there are people looking for React.js developers, right? Like, if you want to learn to code so that you can go and get a job as quickly as possible, just go into React.js. But I digress. Everybody was jealous that you would start with Rust. I can totally see it, because like that's your first experiences. That's like your foundation, and to have a foundation that's as solid as Rust is a good way to go. And I have a couple of my own projects going right now, but Rust is kind of there behind that as kind of the for fun sort of thing. If I'm making a desktop application for some niche need that I have, I always look to see about doing it in Rust first. And the government's talking about it now too. They're saying, because they're finding that the not memory safe applications made in C++ and C are a big problem. So there is starting to be actual like government support, I guess you could say, to encourage people to move towards Rust, which is very, very interesting. On the split side, I see no fucks are being given now, and you hold position. Well, for the swing trade, yeah. That's a swing trade. It only shows like a smaller amount because we rolled over today. But this is the same trade. I'm saying that there's $820 baked into it already. So, but you're right. We do have some news coming out right now, and it looks like it's going to push them up a little bit. The CB consumer confidence was 106.7 versus an expected 115. And the Richmond Fed Composite Index was -5 versus -9. So the Richmond Fed Composite Index is maybe a little bit better than expected, but the CB consumer confidence is significantly worse than expected. And that did cause a pretty strong little spike to the upside. Now, the issue is that I think that what's been dominating the action here today is more the auction. I think that they're selling for the 7-year auction, and you can see how quickly it comes back. That would actually be a situation where I would be thinking about taking a live account trade, but I think that it's already come back too quickly. Yeah, this one is what I would consider a swing trade, which is to say that I intend to hold this position for several weeks, if not several months. So if we come back to a daily chart and I show you on a daily chart, we are essentially short from right here, I think. No, it can't be from there. It must be from this one. I think I'm short from about right here. Should join the military and they will teach you how to code and you can fight our enemies through cyber warfare at the same time. No, I think would be cool. I think that there's financial warfare. There was definitely a lot of that going on when we were having the whole trade war thing with China. And, if there was like an outright conflict happening between US and Russia instead of just a proxy fight. I think that you would start to see that sort of stuff. Is there time? Does it get to a point where the US government is utilizing people to conduct financial warfare? I would expect that if they were doing that sort of thing, that they would do it through the New York Fed, but because they have that trading desk. But that's kind of an interesting thing to think about, that like you could work for the military as a trader. That would be weird. Don't you think? Or work in cybersecurity. I have a friend that works in cybersecurity. I kind of thought that he had given up on that dream or something, but because that's what he wanted to do as a kid, was just be a hacker. But then, you know, when we got out of school, he didn't go to university, and he was doing other kind of stuff. But he did eventually go and get an education in cybersecurity specifically, and built up, and I think he's working for the government now, I believe. Because they were like, I remember being called by a person doing like background checks and stuff. Well, yeah, I think that what he's doing is more like, actually, I don't know what's, because it's a big space, but when you get into like cybersecurity stuff, a lot of it is like pen testing. Like the way that you start is, you know, they have a particular system and you spend all of your time poking holes at it and seeing if you can get it to do things that it's not supposed to do, and test it like that, right? And then once you've done that for a while, you kind of start to move up the chain in terms of like making strategic decisions about the direction of the application and how we're going to deal with the security with it and that sort of a thing. But doing it for the government, I don't know at what level what sort of things he's doing for them now. I mean, if you wanted to become an ethical hacker or straight pirate, yeah, well, there are people out there that do things like that. Like, there was this story a long time ago about, like, you can like update the firmware on routers, and a lot of people never change the default password of their router. They just plug it in and go. And so these guys were breaking into all of these routers around the internet and then updating the firmware to like patch the issue, or to like, you know, prevent other people from getting in. And there's also been some instances of people like putting bot networks on these routers and doing stuff. So that's the sort of stuff that happens. I was thinking about that a little bit like last week, because I've been spending a lot of time like, okay, which flavor of Linux should I use? It seems like that the most vanilla option is Debian Linux. When I put Debian Linux on and I was running it that way, after about 2 weeks, the network adapter would just die for no apparent reason. So I started looking at switching. And in the end, I just ended up using Arch, which is just as vanilla, I guess, but that's the version that like everybody considers complicated. I use Arch, by the way. And actually, it wasn't complicated at all. I just used the Arch install command, and it did everything for me, and it was just as easy as Debian, except for it was command line instead of a GUI, but it was not difficult. But one of the flavors that I was looking at was Kali, because Void Linux, I'm not familiar with that. The frustration that I was having was I didn't want to use Ubuntu anymore because I don't like the way that company is going, and I don't like snaps. But whenever I would try a different distribution, like it seems like they would be missing commands. It's like, okay, so I need to install something, so I need to be root sudo apt install. Oh, we don't have sudo? Like, what? That's so stupid. How do you do anything without sudo? I don't want to su in every time. It's just things like that. And like simple diagnostic tools, I'm like, were those all just Ubuntu like part of the Ubuntu distribution or something. I don't like it, but I just kept coming to, they didn't have the packages by default that I wanted. But as I've kind of gone along, it seems like there's just not a distro that has the packages that I want. So it just kind of turned into you get Arch and you install them yourself. And I think I would like to move. So the new cool thing in the Linux world, is, I think what they call immutable. Yes, they call them immutable distributions, which means that you can't just go sudo apt install blah, 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 blah. What actually has to happen is you have to modify a file that says these are the packages that are installed on my machine, and then run an update thing, and then it will install that package into your system. And so what that means is that, like, if you were to do a reinstall, you do a reinstall and then you're like, oh, I don't have all the utilities I need. I need to install this and I need to install this and yada yada. And, you know, you don't remember everything that you did last time to get the system to the state that you wanted. But because it's immutable, everything's in that file. And so all you have to do is copy that file over. So I think I might move to one of those, but I don't think that it's completely to where there's NixOS is kind of the popular one with that right now. But it doesn't sound to me like it's completely there yet. But maybe in a few years we'll go that way. There's also some other interesting things coming on. So I think I might find myself testing out different versions of Linux more in the near future. Like the next version of SUSE Linux is supposed to have a pretty significant change in their desktop environment, for instance. All of the distributions are supposed to be moving off of X and moving over to, I can't remember the name of it now, but there's like a new Windows manager. It's based off of a guy's name. I can't remember it at the moment. Oh, but let's see our Void Linux. Uses X binary package system manager. I see. Yeah, Wayland. That's it. Wayland. So it sounds like Void is difficult to use because their thing is everything is binaries. Huh. You're not using flat packs or RPMs or whatever it is. What are doing here on the Treasury? I don't know, maybe a little bit of concern that it could turn to the upside from here. I don't know, that change in consumer sentiment seems pretty significant. I don't know. I'm always interested in, like, it's got to do something cool. It's got to do something extra advanced. Like, I think that Vim is like a great example of where it's like, yeah, it's a text editor, but like it's a super advanced text editor, and you spend a lot of time learning it, and all of a sudden you can edit things very, very quickly without ever taking your hands off the keyboard. That's super crazy cool, right? Okay, but then that's been around for a long time. So now they have things like Helix. Helix is a text editor that's even better than Vim, and I think is just amazing. I love that sort of thing. And it's like something to learn. It looks cool, and it like looks advanced, you know? And I want more things with that. That's like what I expect out of my Linux operating system. You know what I mean? I haven't gotten into Emacs yet. I've kind of been thinking about, okay, let's go and learn Emacs now. I read this article where this guy was saying, you know, it used to be that I did everything within Emacs, and then I got out of that. And now I'm starting to think like maybe I should go back to that. And I was kind of been wondering about that. Because I'm kind of in this same situation where it's like, what works best for me when I'm developing is to use Visual Studio Code. But I want to use Helix. So I kind of use Helix where I can, but it's actually, I think that I do more work within Visual Studio. I just cannot give up Visual Studio, unfortunately. But like doing everything, like doing all of my reading and stuff through Emacs, that sounds interesting to me. But see, like Nix OS, that's maybe a little bit more mundane and boring to the average person, but to me, that's like something cool and advanced. That's the sort of stuff that I expect from my Linux operating system, you know? And what I feel like with the Linux ecosystem is that it's far too much of it is not very much of it is actually like we have this new innovative thing and we've changed this and it's like, you know, really cool. No, instead it's just like, well, we disagreed with these guys on this one super niche issue, and so then we broke off. Super annoying. We're stuck in an inside day with a rollover chop. Well, there's definitely rollover chop. But and it's definitely an inside day. But I mean, I would also argue there is stuff going on here. It's just like, I think that you've got selling for the auction, and now you're getting buying because of that news that we got, the consumer sentiment. And for now, they're meeting each other head on. I kind of suspect that long after I'm gone, that the selling because of issuance takes over largely, and that we see those lows of the day again. Maybe we see those lows of the day again at the auction if it really is going to be bad. And then after that, we kind of chill out. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong and it's going to be like a really good auction and that spikes us up beyond the high as possible. So there's like a lot of chop, and I would say that it's difficult trading because of that. But I also think that because we're at the beginning of the contract, and that there are like real reasons and flows that we can kind of watch and base our trades off of, that there probably is some opportunity in here. I haven't seen a really good one for me to try and take a live trade in here. And it is kind of getting to the time where, like, you know, beyond now, I would be really hesitant to take one. So I'm not so sure I'm going to get one today, but it's going that way. So we'll see. So let's come to Zero Hedge here. Okay, they have a story about Bitcoin. I'm telling you, they are pretty biased at Zero Hedge, and they very much try and pump Bitcoin. They're there to put a story out to try and get more people to invest in Bitcoin. 100%. Okay, but I don't see anything about the consumer sentiment that we had 15 minutes ago. So. I think that Void Linux seems like a cool name. Oh boy, r/day trading. Bitcoin is on fire. 52 comments. Okay. Soaring number of Americans are now 401k millionaires. Well, of course, because that's how much money you need to retire. Duh. What is r/LPUS? Okay, so for some reason, Reddit has picked up on that I will read the Austrian economics subreddit if it shows it to me. So it keeps showing me posts from them. And like, I can't stand them. I think that it really bothers me, because I think that when somebody comes into the field of economics and you're a conservative person, you go and you think, oh, okay, well, I think that like the traditional field of economics is a little bit too liberal, and that like Keynesian economics is too liberal. So I should go and kind of pick up the more conservative like field of economics. But I don't think that Austrian economics is necessarily the more conservative field of economics. I think that Austrian economics is the dead field of economics that is only populated by crazies now. And, you know, I thought, oh, maybe we can reason with some of these people and get more of them to come over and look at like this really exciting research that we're getting these days. But the more I read it, the more I'm like, no, these aren't real economists that are going to look at the data and really understand the economy. These are people that are interested in dogma. When's the last time I took a trade? Like a day trade? It's been a week or two. And I'm kind of thinking about it like, I hope that I will have some opportunities Wednesday, Thursday. I thought maybe I would have some opportunities today, but I think that it didn't really go my way. But the other thing is that I do have this swing trade. Granted, it's a sim trade. But I am thinking about this a lot, and I am watching this a lot. And so I think to some extent, I am not taking as many day trades as I normally would, because I'm a lot more focused on these swings. But we did do something today because I did roll it over. Of course, it was as simple as, you know, I let it tick up and then sold it, but I did roll. So I did do something today. Wow. I haven't heard this headline. Like, I've heard that some of the polling numbers has been shifting, but this seems like insane. Biden's support among black voters in Michigan has dropped to 49%. Down from 94% in 2020. So from 94% to 49%, that's insane. That is insane. That's a 45% drop. In 2020, while Trump's support among black voters has risen to 26%, 3 times what it was in 2020. That is so wild to me. I mean, if that's really true, that'll make it very, very difficult. And that's happening across the country, that'll make it very, very difficult for Biden to win an election. That'll make it very, very difficult for any Democrat to win an election. If the Democrat Party lost the black voting bloc, that would decimate their party, man. I do kind of get this sense that like the tenure does kind of want to reach higher, and that it's just kind of weighted down a little bit right now. Okay, so there was a uptick there that it was probably significant, and they get above 09. I love that sometimes the critical points end up being like right where I taken orders. You know? XQC and Aiden react to Hassan saying streaming is harder than a regular job. No. That's not to say that the world of streaming does not have its issues that probably should be addressed, and that there are some people that are literally like living out their entire life in front of a computer screen and all of the mental health problems and so forth that come with that. But that does not necessarily make it harder than a regular job. It's just like a streamer to say the hardest job is being a streamer. I mean, like, what did Hassan do before he was a streamer? Has he ever had like a real hard job? I kind of wonder. He is probably saying that streaming is harder than like you know, a computer help desk guy, that might be the case. There are some jobs where most of the time you just sit there and don't do anything, right? There are jobs like that. But then there's other jobs where you're just doing backbreaking labor all day. You know, like people that do drilling or work on oil rigs, right? Those people work hard all day. They get compensated pretty good for it, but they work hard, and that is definitely not easier than streaming. I don't know. That one's kind of weird. Like that seems particularly tone deaf, even for Hassan. You know, maybe that guy is a little bit more clueless and selfish than I realized. Because that one kind of is a yikes. Actually, let's read the Reddit thread about this. Kind of funny that this is coming from the same guy who thought 100K was an average wage. You know, when I look at like the current state of the economy and things like that, it is definitely the case that in some parts of the United States, you don't really get a very good quality of life unless you're making over $100,000, right? And that would be like most cities, I would say. So it's kind of crazy to me that the median wage in the United States is still like 50, 60,000 a year. It is. So it doesn't surprise me at all that a lot of kids think that 100K is an average wage. Doesn't surprise me at all. As a person working at Walmart, I feel I would rather be a streamer than deal with 90% of the issues I currently. Well, especially so ask yourself this: if being a streamer paid the same, which one would you rather do? The average Walmart employee makes more money than the average streamer, probably. If a particular job is something that XQC can do for hours upon hours, day in, day out, you can be sure it's not harder than a regular job. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Well, you know, I find it, you know, the whole thing is that these streamers, like, you're only discoverable when you're online. And so these streamers are online like 24/7. That to me is great. Like to me, streaming for the 2 hours, that takes a lot out of you. Talking for 2 hours is not easy. It's not. There are definitely some issues with the way that the streaming industry is structured and stuff. I definitely think that there are some issues. Like, I don't think that people should have to stream 24/7 to be discoverable, for instance. Okay. But that doesn't make your problems worse than other people's problems, right? Yeah. The soundstage is so bad that even the dumbest people like Aiden Ross can justifiably clown on him, right? Oh, man. And Destiny agrees with Hassan on... Oh, really, does he? That's funny, too. Okay. You should work out. You know, I don't understand why, if you were a streamer, why you wouldn't also work a regular job. Whatever. Like if you were just a streamer, okay? Like if you're making content and you're actually like working on videos, like a Mr. Beast kind of guy, like that can take up all of your time. But if you're streaming, I don't know. That would be too much, man. I think that you would lose. Well, maybe that's what's happening. I think that you would very quickly lose your grip on reality, right? Like the world would, you would not be very grounded. I think that you'd have to have a second job, right, to keep you grounded. Especially if you were single or not married, that'd be another thing. Being married and having children really, really keeps you grounded. Some people are saying that's not what he actually said. Okay. All the easy money has been made online. There isn't much room for more and more of those people. So yeah, they will need second job and more income because all the easy money. Well, I don't know if I would say that. I think as somebody that has kind of been there from the beginning and didn't necessarily like really go for, a thing. Like I never came in and was like, okay, I'm going to become a famous streamer and then just put everything into becoming a famous streamer or a famous YouTuber. Okay. But I've always kind of been there like casually doing things. And I would say that there was never actually any easy money and that there is still easy money. Like it only appears to be easy money in retrospect, right? But you don't realize like in retrospect the risks that people are taking on, right? Like if I create a fund, right, there will be people, I guarantee you this is what will happen, okay? I'll start a fund. We get over $10 million of people contributing so that I can do that full time. And then people will say that I have an easy job, which maybe in some respects might be because if it's a momentum fund, the rules are already kind of set up. And so I'm just executing the trades that the system tells me to do and then processing all of the paperwork. Okay. That's not like a trivial job, but it's not the hardest job that I've done probably. Right. So some people might say that like I'm making easy money. And they'll be like, oh, well, he just came in at the right time when, he had this opportunity to make a hedge fund that everybody could get into. And that's how he became so rich. That's what people will say. Right? You save this video 10 years from now, we'll be talking about this, right? But that doesn't take into account all of the risks and things that I had to do to learn and everything to even get to the spot to do that, right? That has been incredibly difficult. Like passing those tests was a lot of study. It was a lot of time. That was like every weekend just taking tests for like 2 years, Well, not for 2 years, but there's been points within the 2 years where, I was the whole weekend was studying for tests, right? This is hard. And then there's the risks involved in like creating a fund and like figuring out how to even do it and find the people and stuff. It's not easy, right? But it's like that for everything. And that's kind of the thing is it will always look like that though, because how do you actually become rich? The way that you actually become rich is by becoming more productive, right? Essentially, increases in quality of living usually only come after productivity increases. Some innovation or whatever that comes in and makes you more effective than other workers, right? And so when you become so effective that you're making millions of dollars, right? That basically whatever the innovation is will end up looking easy, right? But the hard part was coming up with the innovation, right? I haven't started a fund, but we're talking about it. I have a Series 3, or I passed the Series 3 exam rather. So now I could go and register as a CTA. And I'm thinking about taking another test that would allow me to run a managed futures fund. And then we could start a managed futures fund and people could invest in the fund. And it would be like a momentum strategy. Well, first of all, I can pass a prop account, and I've definitely had periods of performance where we would pass a prop account. I've thought many, many times about doing this kind of, like proof sort of thing to show you like, look, if you do degenerate stuff, you can pass combines, right? But this would not be a day trading fund. it would be a momentum fund. It would be a momentum fund. This is like, frankly, a pretty well-known established strategy. We would have back-tested statistics and everything going back 20 years. It would give you, I don't think that we give everything about it away, but it'd be pretty clear about how it's making money and how it's going to perform. So it wouldn't even necessarily be a unique fund. The thing that would be unique about it would be that we would be targeting accredited investors who became accredited by taking the test. So, because most of these hedge funds and momentum funds that are out there, the minimum investment is too high for most people, right? So we're going to make one where the minimum investment is like $1,000 or something like that. That's kind of my dream. And then once we're kind of doing that sort of a thing, then that gives me the resources to do kind of some of the other things that I'm really truly interested in, right? Like if I had all of the resources for research and news and things like that, specific to the treasury market, if I had a Bloomberg terminal, how much more effective could I be? Then I can really get, really test myself and say, what if I was an institutional investor? How well would I do? Well, maybe we'll get the chance to find out, maybe. But I want it to be, I think that it's something that could expand too. So it's like you start with the momentum fund and then that gets popular. And so then I say, okay, let's also do like a long short fund and, one that does this certain options strategy. And let's have one that is private equity or like angel investing or something like that, right? Well, I don't want to be like Cathie Woods. I don't think I want to be like Cathie Woods where it's like I'm picking the stocks and then every stock that I pick is second questioned and you lose a ton of money and you're the biggest wealth destroyer ever and that sort of no. That one's crazy. I think that the whole premise behind her fund is a little bit crazy, to be honest with you. Like I want to invest in upcoming like fields and stuff like that, but the way that she picks is just not I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I don't like her at all. I feel like she's crazy, and I feel like that she's doing stuff just to make the fees from the fund and not actually to like run a good fund. Because some of the decisions that she makes and the way that she invests are like dumb if you really understood your impact and all that sort of stuff. But it would be, if I was going to do it full time, I would have to be getting it from fees, I think. I really think this idea that you're going to like day trade futures and make a living off of it is really crazy. I've seen some people that claim to be doing it, but I've never found somebody that's been doing it 5 years in a row. And I really think that it's a crazy expectation. The people that are making money from doing this stuff are doing momentum strategies and commodities trading advising. Those are the people that are making money here. And some of it, like the thing is, I don't know if we realize how big it is, because there's like these people that are coming in and they're hedging. They're saying like, well, my business, we're vulnerable to interest rates, and so we're hedging it based off of this sort of a thing. Okay, well, so a lot of that happens at a bank. Okay, but what about like wood? What about wood futures? Like who are the people that are trading wood futures and are hedging in wood futures? Because I don't know if your average construction guy cares to learn everything about futures and everything to do that and hedge it right every month or every quarter. Like they could, but they've got a lot of other stuff going on. So I think that a lot of them pay a commodities trading advisor. And so then you find somebody like me and you say, this is how much wood I'm going to need in the next quarter. And then you go out and hedge it. And then you make a commission on it. I think that there's a lot of that going on. I think that that's where most of the professionals that are professionals in the futures trading industry, that's what they're doing. Right? Because really, if the next trade is going to determine whether you eat dinner or not, you're never going to be in a good spot doing that, right? So really, if you want to do it for a living, I think that starting a fund and managing other people's money is the only real sensible way to do it. Anything else is kind of a bad trade. And plus, I've been doing pretty good with these swing trades. So I'm also kind of thinking about, like to be honest, and I think that this would hurt the stream, to be honest with you, because we just wouldn't be taking as many day trades. But I guess I can have those, and I can take day trades on sim and just kind of manage. But I think that we're going to take swings in these micro treasuries and swings in terms of the yield curve and kind of build that way. I'm way more interested in that and taking those and holding those for a long time rather than, trying to scalp ticks out. Scalping ticks out is fun, but you can only go for so far with that. You know what I mean? All right, let's see. What was anything? By the way, nice to see you again first last. I'm glad that you're still a little bit trolly, but not too bad. Wait. Are you back here today because Bitcoin had such a huge rise yesterday? Is that where all of the Bitcoin people come out of the woodworks? Because you first came from this stream from Bitcoin, right? Yeah. Well, the other thing with the fund, I don't know if I need $10 million necessarily, because I don't think it has to be my primary job. I think that the momentum fund alone might be something that I can do in my spare time. And then as it grows, then I can hire other people and I can switch over to doing it full time and whatnot. But I don't know. But part of it is like the way that I present that. It's like, well, this is a way for me to get to my dream of like trading full time. That's not really what it's about. I think that my dream is allowing regular people to be able to invest in these kind of riskier strategies that the rich take advantage of to get uncorrelated returns. I think that it's silly that investing in a hedge fund is locked behind this paywall of sorts. Like maybe that made sense 100 years ago to protect people. But with the proper regulation, I don't see why regular people shouldn't be able to do that if they have the extra money to invest. Because we let them invest in Bitcoin, and that's way more risky than any kind of momentum strategy that we could do. You know? That's really what it's about. Wow. CNBC, nearly 1 in 4 Americans with debt are putting less money towards credit card payments. People are really struggling. I'm betting that the debt burden on people is starting to get to the point where, you know, it's starting to strain them a little bit. Probably. time is it? Oh, 8:43. I was starting to think, I was like, shouldn't we be, isn't it like time we're starting to get a little bit closer? And you know, I never heard the little ding. I bet you would probably happen and I just like totally ignored it and forgot about it. But the S&P 500, once again, is incredibly tight once it opens up. Oh my gosh. Something happened yesterday on Reddit. So somebody asked, it seems like it was really hard to trade yesterday. Did anybody else get that feeling? And I said, well, a lot of traders will start to say that when volatility is low. When the VIX starts to get low, that means less movement and it's harder to make money. You have to rely a lot more on mean reversion strategies and like getting a good spot in the queue and that sort of a thing, versus like just jumping on board and riding the trend, like what most retail traders would like to do, right? So when the VIX kind of contracts, things get a little bit more competitive. So you have to either do mean reversion or sell volatility yourself. And this person responded like, no, that's wrong. They're long gamma, so that means that people are buying volatility, not selling it. And I started writing something out. I'm like, no, that's definitely wrong. Okay, when the VIX is low, what that means is that the premiums that you're paying for the options aren't as high because they don't expect the market to move as far. So the chances of you getting a move that goes beyond what the market is expecting are less in general. So you're better off selling volatility, making money off of the time decay, or selling volatility in general, like going to the VIX futures and just selling VIX futures, right? I started writing something, and then I was like, no, you know what? This guy is so stupid. Why even bother responding to them? So I deleted it. I didn't post them. Aren't you proud of me? Aren't you proud of me, guys? I resisted arguing with somebody on Reddit because I thought they were so dumb. But like, I was like really, like, I was like, how can you be that confident in saying something there's got to be something that he thinks that we're saying, or, you know, there's got to be some sort of disconnect in there about what he thinks it means and what we think it means, because that's just like so far left field out there that I just can't even fathom what he could possibly be thinking. Oh, you're going to say, okay, good job. We still appreciate you being around for us last. I remember you. I remember you. We've had entertaining times in the past. You can come around and argue with me anytime. You see, but I think that you should shift your, like, if you're trying to strike at my heart, you know, and try and make me feel bad or something like that, you're going to have to change because like trying to make me feel bad because my trading performance isn't what I want it to be is not something that really affects me. I have long ago realized that my worth as a person is not dependent on how good I am at trading. That I'm quite good at trading relative to most traders, and it's just that even that's not enough sometimes, and that usually the people that are actually successful trading, it's not because they are more valuable or have more worth or are smarter than other people. They're just lucky. There's a lot of it. Never argue with stupid people that will drag you down to their level and beat you by experience. Well, okay. You know, it's not necessarily about winning, right? Arguing with people is a really great way for you to kind of like train your own models about how other people think and test your ideas about how other people think, right? It's just the problem that most other people think that the objective is for them to win the argument, and especially on Reddit, because it's like, okay, if we're on the r/politics subreddit and I say something, I might say something because I think that there is information or an approach that is not being given a voice, and that there is misinformation in the story that needs to be corrected, right? So I'll be posting something to make it seen, and you'll get other people on Reddit that don't want that idea to be seen and will do everything that they can to kind of like, prevent it from getting out there, right? So then they'll start arguing with you. But it's like, once you're like 3 levels deep, nobody else is reading it, man. It's just you and that person. So if you know that it's just you and that person, and nothing is accomplished by winning the argument, then what are you really arguing for, right? Well, I will go in as far as I think that they might be learning something, or I might be learning something from them about what they believe. But the point at which I get to where it's like, because what will often happen is they'll start going into circular reasoning, right? Where they'll say something and you'll disprove that and then bring up another point, and then they'll just point back to their first point that you already disproved, right? When they start doing that, that's when I start ignoring them. Or they come back with responses that have no logic in them whatsoever. That's probably more common, right? So most of the people that will respond to you, especially if you're arguing with a leftist, will be like name calling, trying to insult you, belittling you as some backwards conservative, yada 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 yada. But there's no actual facts or logic in their posts whatsoever. I don't bother with those people. Trading is 80% skill. Well, I don't know. That might be true from like a theoretical perspective, but what I'm saying is this, okay? Of the people that have been profitable over the past 2 years, I bet you that 60% of those were just lucky. Like, finding an edge in trading as a retail trader is so difficult that you're more likely to be just lucky than you are to have success from your skill. That's how difficult it is. That's what I think. Octavius agrees. Probably, and 60% is just kind of a spitballing number, but that's the way that it seems to go. Now, if you've had 5 years or even 10 years, you've been day trading futures and you've been profitable 5 to 10 years, and like every year for those 10 years, then there's really something to what you're doing, right? I want to talk to that person. I want to know what they're doing and try copying what they're doing, right? And of course, that might not work because it might not work for me. It might not work anymore. Yeah, why would they be sharing it with me? Yada, 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 yada. But, once you get to 5 to 10 years, what you're doing isn't luck anymore, right? But there's a reason why it's so hard for us to find anybody that's been doing it for 5 years. So, yeah. That's what I mean by like, I actually think that it's kind of more luck. And that's one of the issues is that when it comes to a beginner getting started in trading and what sort of ideas do beginning traders tend to gravitate towards, right? There is this systematic imbalance that makes certain ideas more popular, that basically leads all of the beginning traders to go down the wrong path right from the very beginning. Because they're interested in the people that have made the most money and are claiming to be profitable. And if those people are likely to just be lucky rather than actually having skill, then what you're learning is nonsense, essentially. Well, what you're learning is taking degenerate risks, essentially. And so that's what you see is like with the combines. That's what the combines have turned into, is the people that are getting funded are taking degenerate risks, and they lose a lot of combines, but they're able to pull more money out of them than they lose, and they're kind of taking advantage of that. And for now, the funded trader programs are okay with it because it hasn't become a large enough portion of their business to become a problem, and it actually kind of attracts more people to it, right? But that doesn't help you, that you're trying to trade and be as great of a trader as possible and do as well with it as possible, if you're doing something that is basically destined to fail within 2 years. But that's where people get led. And I wish it wasn't so, but I I think I've done just about everything that I could possibly ever do to help fix that. And people are going to do what they want to do. So now that I feel like I've done my duty, I'm going to go and do my own things. Like start a fund. So that people can invest in hedge funds without having to be billionaires. When I play it through in my head, it just seems like the coolest thing. Like, you want to talk about like an opportunity to really change the investing landscape in a way that investors like Warren Buffett and JP Morgan have. That's it, isn't it? That's a huge paradigm shift. If regular people, by taking a test, and granted you do have to take a test, and I don't know how hard the test will be, but by taking a test, you can invest in hedge funds. That's tremendous, I think. Oh, so you know what? By the way, what are we? Because I'm noticing that my dollar index is not showing up here. Wonder if we're having that same issue that our friend was having. Oh, no, that one's on renders, so that's the issue. If I just refresh it, it'll probably be fine. Yep. There are two types of people in this world, those who talk about doing it and those that do it. Yeah, well, I've already taken the first few steps, right? The next two steps are a little bit more time back testing and getting a Series 31. I'm like, the further along I go with this, the more I'm like, I do think it's going to be a Series 31, right? But the issue is that there's a real knowledge gap there somewhere, right? There's going to be somebody out there that's done this sort of a thing and knows exactly what I need to do. And I'm going to meet them, and I've just got to figure out how to find them. But I do think that the thing I'm missing right now is some networking with some people that might know a little bit more about it and help me. Because beyond those steps, then it's like, I don't know what else you do. It's like, okay, I took the exams, I registered the company and everything. Now I'm fundraising. Who do I go and fundraise from? Where do I get it from? Not sure where to even start on some of those questions. So, I've already started doing it. But the reason I'm talking about it, because I'm not that, I kind of prefer to keep what I'm doing quiet. Generally speaking, I know it might not seem like that, but there's a lot of things that I do that I just never say anything about. But I mention it because I'm trying to because I know that by talking about it, maybe one of you guys will know a guy, or you'll know a guy that knows a guy, and it comes up in a conversation, so that's why I just kind of will constantly bring it into the conversation, is because that's kind of one of the advantages of the stream, is that it helps me do that networking. It helps me get access to information that I normally wouldn't, right? I need more water. I don't know, man. So the treasuries did move. I mean, they came all the way back down to 04 in backups. I think that for a small little day trade, that would probably give you $10 and would probably be acceptable, but it's pretty tight still. Yes, I did watch your workspace yesterday. What did you mean by that you use a 1-minute chart with boxes? Are boxes candlesticks without... Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So, like, let me do it this way. I'm going to duplicate my ZN chart to show you. So, when I go into the data series, the chart style is box, and then I have down bars are orange and up bars are cornflower blue. Okay. Now, most people, they will just use candlesticks. If I change my 1-minute chart to a candlestick, then you get this sort of thing where, like, a lot of the bars are dojis. And depending on how you're coloring it and things like that, it can kind of make it really hard to see what's going on. So I actually really don't like the outlines. You see how they have like a white outline around every candle? I don't really like that because I feel like it desaturates it. So I'll normally come in here and I'll say the body outline should be transparent. Why? Okay. But then when you do that, then you get all of these bars where it's just a wick, right? Well, there are ways around that. There is a better candlestick. Oh, I don't have it installed on this version of NinjaTrader. But when I went through that one, I found that it was using too many resources. That indicator probably needed to be reworked, right? But like, here's the thing. All of this reading about like, why do we care about dojis? Because there's like these doji patterns and things like that. Number one, when the ranges are so small, you're not going to get any of those patterns. And number two, they aren't really very effective on intraday time periods. In fact, I've not seen any information that suggests to me that candlesticks are effective at all on any time frame. But I don't think I've ever tried it on higher time frames. So I think the better thing is to use the box. I think that the box, and you just say, look, the box doesn't tell you where it closed at or anything, but it just gives, I think it gives me a good enough idea of what is going on that when I'm glancing over at it, that I can see what's going on. And, you know, honestly, like, how am I using the chart? Well, one, I'm looking for certain news events, right? So there was the 6:30 news. There was the 8 o'clock news. I can see the spikes there. But then I'm also comparing how it moved to what the cumulative delta did. So, and what the spread is doing. So that's why I do what I do. Okay, now why don't you use range charts? That's a good question, because I used to do it like this. I used to do like a one range chart, and then you get these sorts of things. And there's actually some interesting stuff with that, because like you can see how many times it went back and forth there before it shifted and stuff like that. So there are kind of some interesting things that happen with range charts. Let me come back and just change it again to the box. There you go. So I do like, you know, I think that there's some cool things about range boxes, but range boxes are kind of deceptive, because what ends up happening is like, if you see this one right here, you can see it moved up and then it moved down. You don't get any sense of how quickly that happened, right? Because you can't see that this all happened within like 1 minute or whatever. From here to 30 to 36, like that whole thing up to the top was like one bar, right? So range bars kind of deceive you. And what happens is, especially if you're prone to looking for patterns, you're going to say, here's this pattern and whatnot. Well, then what happens is, the more range bars that you get, the more likely you are to get a pattern and to want to trade it. So range bars bias you towards taking trades in more choppy, busy action, and especially in backtesting, can bias your trading strategy towards trading in situations where the market is moving too quickly for you and you don't really have a very good edge. So that's kind of why I switched back over to 1 minute charts, you know, that fit in with the things that I was doing algorithmically a little bit better. Like if you're running algorithms, I would not recommend running it on anything other than time. Okay, because time is completely disconnected from the market. It is the only thing that is consistent, essentially. And so any other way of specifying the dividers is going to introduce a bias into the chart other than time, right? Okay, why not footprint? Well, so for starters, I'm not using my developer license of NinjaTrader anymore. Otherwise, I would in here I would have the volume candlestick chart. right? I do get them in Jigsaw, so I could pull one up in Jigsaw, but I don't really find that I need them. I'm mostly interested in what is the autocorrelation in the order flow. I have never been able to backtest or find any empirical evidence that the setups that people look for on footprint charts are actually effective. In fact, my backtesting suggests that they're not. I'm not going to say that I've backtested every setup, but like, for instance, I did a backtest on what was it, like incomplete highs, for instance, is a footprint setup that people will talk about. Was not effective. So, you know, I feel that the footprint is just kind of like unnecessarily complicated. You know, there's nothing wrong with putting it up. If I thought that something weird happened overnight and I'm not exactly sure what happened in a location, then it's totally worth bringing the footprint out to see what actually happened there. Like, you know, down in here, this was just that they were kind of nonchalant about it. But sometimes you can't tell. Sometimes you can't tell that actually there was a lot of selling there and it met up with a lot of market buying, and that's why cumulative delta didn't move very much, but it stayed put, right? So there are some things that when you're looking, but I just watched it all in the dump, so I know that that's the way that it was going when we were down there. Yeah, like only 263 traded at 03.5 when it was down there, right? I can remember. All I needed to do is see the chart and I can remember when it was there, so I don't need the footprint. But there are some people that will teach you these setups based on the footprint that, like, when there's an imbalance between two prices and the imbalance is more than a certain amount, and then you take a trade, and I've found no evidence that those are effective in any way. Unless yesterday unfinished low means yesterday. Means nothing. Could be. I do kind of think that an unfinished higher low is really kind of more luck of the draw than anything. This idea that it means that, like, there, so part of it is that I think that a lot of footprint and volume profile setups are based on auction theory. And if you go and you watch my video that I made a couple of months ago about a volume profile, I talk about auction theory and why the evidence that we have suggests that auction theory is wrong. So it was a pretty good theory, and I think that it did explain some things about the market, but the way that it gets applied by retail traders and everything is just nonsense. This idea that, like, there's an auction. Oh wait, holy crap! I misclicked there. I'm sorry. So how much did I bake into that? Hold on a second. I can't believe that it happened to misclick right where a market order would go in. Okay, I only made 3 ticks on that. That's fine, whatever. No big deal. So they have this idea that, like, they're now trying to find new value, and so it will just keep moving higher until they've found that value. That's not what actually happens. I understand why they would think that, but that's not what actually happens. What actually happens is there are really large meta orders, and when those large meta orders come in, it will move the market, and it often moves the market a lot further than we think. It's kind of weird and contradictory because, like, it goes so much further than we think, but then you also get these liquidity holes. So, like, it can only move so fast. That's why you can get these things where, like, it can trend for days and days and days. It's because they have to buy it for days and days and days in order to get enough contracts for whatever it is that they're doing, right? And then when it's done, there will be like a post-regime change kind of mean reversion a little bit, and then it will just stay there, and it will stay in that area. So when it stays in that area, they say, that's acceptance. No, it's not. It just means the meta order is done and they're not doing anything. It means nothing. It's kind of like where it settles in is kind of luck of the draw. Now, a lot of the time, it will get rejected, but that just means there's a counter meta order that was just as big, pushes that all the way back down, and usually that will push it even further, and it will go even lower than it went up. Okay? But that's what's actually happening. So this idea that like there's some sort of a signal that like an auction is done is kind of silly, right? An auction is done, the volume dies out because they're not executing the meta order anymore. That's all. And they're going to pull back on the pace of execution when a liquidity hole is formed. And then when the liquidity hole has healed, then they're going to step up their execution again. So just seeing it die down for like 20 minutes doesn't necessarily tell you that either, right? So to me, it kind of has to be like there for like more than an hour for me to know that it's really done. That's what's going on, right? So keep that in mind, or you can go and watch that video. But that auction theory is an incomplete view of the market. There's some real issues with it, and we have new, better information that really puts into question a lot of the kind of setups that people try and do with footprint charts and volume profiles. Doesn't make those tools useless, but just you keep in mind what it's really actually showing you and what it really actually can do, and don't apply technical analysis to it based on theories of the market that are incorrect. Right? I watched your video. Jim Dalton says many of the ideas in his book are now redundant, i.e. poor highs, high or lows are no longer relevant. That may be the case as well. I would love to see you cite where he said that, because I've had some people tell me that like John Dalton kind of gave up on the idea and didn't think that it was relevant or it worked anymore, but people kept begging him to educate them, and so that's why he continues to do it, but that he doesn't think that it's really a very good way of doing things anymore. I've heard that before, but I can't see anything from him to prove that. Yeah, but I don't want to go and watch. If you could just find the video for me in a timestamp, you know, next time you're going through that, or you come across that sort of a thing, you know, next time you're watching a webinar of his and he says something like that, go, oh, Seth wanted to know it, you know, wanted proof that he was saying that. So then, you know, mark the timestamp and come show me. This is so I run into this all the time with Al Brooks. Al Brooks is the real one, because I do not believe in price action. I think that it's nonsense. That's just straight up. I'm telling you, I think that price action is mostly nonsense. So then people will say like, well, can you prove that it's wrong? Have you read Al Brooks' courses and stuff like that? Well, I have backtested some price action setups that were particularly popular, especially the Smart Money Concepts Silver Bullet. My nose really itches today. And it didn't work. So then people say like, well, you should change it. You should go and research all of these things. Ain't nobody got time for that. Like, if I went and I backtested as thoroughly as I would like to backtest, every technical analysis setup that is ever suggested to me by people online, that would be the rest of my life. I could spend the rest of my life backtesting indicators and never find anything right and die. So like, I have to make decisions about how am I going to spend my time. And the decision that I made was that when it comes to research, that I need to see empirical evidence before I am going to waste my time with somebody else's idea, right? So like, could it perhaps be useful for me to read all of Al Brooks's books and then like try and debunk them and stuff like that? I could do that, but I don't really have the time or interest in doing that because there's absolutely no empirical evidence behind anything that he's saying. And quite frankly, I think that there's a lot of, it's so vague so that people can just see what they want to see. I also don't think that it's really a very, like a real strategy, right? Yeah, and I don't know if Al Brooks is a cult or what, because I never hear from the people that are like, because he does have a trading room, right? I never hear from the people that are like, oh yeah, Al Brooks has this trading room, and I've been in it for 10 years, and we do really well. And I've never heard from those people, even though I know that he has one, which I think is kind of really bizarre, don't you? Have you guys ever spoken to any of those people? It seems kind of weird to me that like the most popular, I would probably argue that like when you look at like a 10-year time frame, that Al Brooks is probably the most popular educator in the space. And yet I've never spoken with somebody that spent a significant amount of time in his room. Why is that? They all read his books, but they don't go into his trading room. It seems kind of weird to me. But whatever. I need empirical evidence, you know what I mean? And so it's kind of the same thing with the Jim Dalton thing. It's just like, well, I mean, it was an interesting idea and everything, but why is it that nobody's posting empirical evidence about them? That you say, here's the setup, and then here's how it performed against the market data. Because like I can do that. So if nobody else is posting data like that, then kind of really makes me skeptical that there's anything to it. Because I think that if it was like something that you'd done and you found that there was a real edge and you back tested it and everything, you keep it to yourself. It wouldn't be something that like everybody knows about. So seeing it that it's like something that everybody knows about, but there's no empirical evidence about it, that's a pretty strong indication to me that it doesn't actually work. They all blow up when the market changes? Problem. Your wife should make cutout stickers of your YouTube video thumbnail faces and put them around. We need to get the Seth Shock one from when we had the earthquake and turn that into a refrigerator magnet. I think that would be great. I think that the kids would probably, like my toddlers would probably think that's hilarious. My 4-year-old, he is still autistic as all get out and so destructive and everything. Because like once you're turned 4, like the testosterone starts coming in a little bit more for boys. So the boy starts to become a lot more active at 4. But he's calm enough most of the time. It's kind of funny how easy it is to entertain him though. Like he'll be laughing at the pad. Or try to only have him on the iPad when mom is cooking dinner so that they'll leave him alone. But he'll be watching the iPad and just laughing his head off. And I'm like, what the heck? Okay. Oh, you know what? I totally lost track of time. I'm like 15 minutes over. It's time for me to get going, guys. Well, I got that. I will, because I wanted my cost basis to be back at 8. So, if I can get this to come in and maybe there, I might take it. We'll see what happens. And if not, I might just go back to one contract. But I'll see you guys tomorrow. So in the meantime, stay